Okay. Good evening, and good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the March 4th, 2020 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I'd like to apologize for those of you who were out there and tuned in. That unfortunately, we had a meeting prior to this that lasted a little longer than was expected. So,
I blame you.
any revisions?
Yeah, they're on there.
There are revisions?
I listed them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm asking a question I have in front of me. And we had E3 awards this evening, but unfortunately, the attendees were not able to attend. We also, enrollment report, I saw.
We're
it
adding
earlier.
the enrollment report under the superintendent's
Okay.
report and the job
Job
description.
description will be on the superintendent comments also. All right.
And the student reps will, the student council, the student reps, when they come tonight for the council, for their presentation, will be here around 7:00.
Okay. So wherever we are, we'll just cut in, bring them, let them leave. Okay. All right. Summary of non-public actions from February 19th, 2020. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of February 5th, 2020. Ms. McDonald second. Motion carried 5-0. Ms. Burke made a motion to accept the resignation of Mary Cummings, LMS guidance counselor, Jacqueline Bodette, CHS special education teacher, and Ryan Keller, CHS special education teacher,
Oh, wait a minute.
and Kara Robinson, CSH English teacher. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Hershberger made a motion to accept the nomination of Donna Boucher as a CHS school nurse at a prorated salary of $48,774 for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Myers second. Motion carried 5-0. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the increase in hours to full-time for the ELL teaching position through June 30th, 2020. Ms. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Burke made a motion to authorize the superintendent to negotiate a contract with Don Mitchell as principal at GMS as nominated by the superintendent. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0. And I'm sure you'll speak of that in your comments. So it's someone here to present the athletic.
Bill, are you doing the athletic
I'll speak to that.
proposals?
Yeah,
Okay.
Josh is out of town for the next couple of days.
So we have two fundraiser proposals for athletics.
Two?
I have the baseball hit-a-thon and the athletic banner silent auction.
Yep, he's got a couple of others that are in the works as well, so.
Okay.
So Josh and I spoke this morning, actually, and he gave me just a brief overview, so I don't have any hard paperwork. But
No, one of them, he said, attachment below, there was nothing else below as far as more information. So-
Right, okay, yep, so essentially there are 4 fundraisers total. And you'll be pleased to hear that what he wants to move away from is the cards and the calendars and those things. Yes, absolutely.
Something
So,
a little different.
So the baseball hit-a-thon is basically the baseball team sort of reaching out into the community for sponsorship for a home run hitting contest. So they're going to hit the ball as far as they can, and whatever the distance is, looking for donations per foot over the wall that the kids are hitting home
I know it's
runs.
a baseball hit-a-thon. Is it just for the baseball team?
It's for the
fundraising?
baseball team. Yep, it's not for anybody else.
So
Yep.
you wouldn't have the football team come and try to hit a ball or?
Josh didn't give me any specifics of other, but in some ways that would be a good thing. They'll pay it, but I wouldn't want to hit it that far if I had to contribute based on what I was hitting. You know?
Yeah.
So, essentially it was him talking about it. Maybe it is, maybe it's kids, maybe it's parents, maybe it's adults. He didn't give me all the specific details on it. Yep. The second one was along the same lines for lacrosse. So getting a radar gun and how fast is your shot? Okay, and having them have a competition, see how fast they could shoot it, see if they could raise money from parents, aunts, uncles, people in the community for how fast they can shoot it over 50 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour, whatever the case may be. Yep. So along the same lines, competition. The third one was the silent auction for not the individual banners, but the team banners because he is going to move forward with putting up banners and then having the champions and the runner-up for each of the years that Campbell has been successful. He's working with the Booster Club on that, and they're going to provide some money to support that moving forward. Right. So, but then the question is, what do you do with your old team banners? Not the student individual ones,
Right.
but the team ones. And the idea is, if people are that interested in having them, then have a silent auction and see what we can do, is whether or not people would be interested in
Love that.
purchasing them and donating.
Yeah.
Although I'm not a fan of runner-up.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've never been. It's kind of like, oh, we're almost good.
Yeah, I don't know, though. It takes a lot to get to the finals of a
All
certain
right.
tournament. It
Second
does.
place.
Yeah, well, I know.
Saw that
but
last night.
We're not,
Yeah.
it's not everybody gets a trophy. It's
Yeah,
only the top
that's-
two.
No, the top one gets a trophy.
Well, I know, but that second team worked really hard to get to
Okay.
that point.
They get the ribbon.
Well, okay, they get a ribbon, yep. But the NHI does give a runner-up plaque to teams.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, yep, you get the first place and then
Doing
you
pro
get the
sports
runner-up.
too. You always
Do
get, you ever watch the Wimbledon?
Try not
Watch
to.
tennis match?
When I was little.
Or the
It was
Olympics,
hot
there's always
outside.
3 of them.
Okay, that's fine.
I have a question.
Sure.
Back on topic. I like the idea that now the fundraisers are going through Josh and Josh is coming
Mhm.
to us. Do you have a sense from him whether how this is going to work going forward? Is so like the baseball team,
Yeah.
they have a hit-a-thon.
Mhm.
Can the softball team do the same fundraiser?
I don't see why they wouldn't.
And then boys and girls lacrosse, boys
Mhm.
and girls basketball.
Right.
If we can kind of centralize the fundraising and not have every team go out and hit up the same.
And I think it'd be
people in
great.
town.
What I like about the baseball one, it's related to their sport at the
Right.
same time.
Correct.
You know, so it's still like an
Yeah.
athletic
Right.
thing going on. You can do Santa Good basketball, you got a 3-point shot or
Mhm.
Yep. And it's No, I think that's a good idea. I still want to kind of rein in the fundraising and make sure that, and I know Josh is on board with making sure they're not raising money for the same thing that we're approving money for in the
Absolutely,
budget. and
yes.
That it's
Mhm.
stated.
It's oftentimes about, sweatpants and sweatshirts and things of that nature,
Yeah.
or the banquet,
Yeah.
Shouldn't be fundraising.
right.
Well, again, we don't know what he wants to fundraise.
No, but
so-
I'm just
Right.
saying. if
Until
it
Josh is here and then,
Yeah.
Of those are guaranteed, if these are going on the table, are definitely off the table.
For those sports, that's what he wants. That's his goal, is to replace these
Can he
with
make
the
that
cards with
I
clear
these.
didn't even do a
to the coaches so we
fundraiser
don't end
last
up
year.
with both?
Boys
Yeah.
soccer.
Say that again?
Can he make
Makes
that
it go.
clear to the coaches?
Sure,
that
yeah, absolutely.
you
I'll
don't
make it a
end up
note to
with
myself.
The old land?
well, I think Josh should be here before we approve these anyway. I mean,
Right,
he's
because
not
we want to
planning
see
do this
some
for a while.
hard,
Right, so you're just giving us kind of like a heads up on it.
Okay.
And then we can ask the question. I mean, there's not enough information here anyway to say yes or no anyway, so
did he
get the
speak?
general gist of it.
Okay, did he speak about a golf tournament?
No.
Excuse me. There were only 2 fundraisers he gave
Yep.
us submitted for approval, which is the hit-a-thon and the silent auction. He didn't give me anything else. The
No.
board doesn't have those.
Okay, right, and I wasn't aware whether he had those conversations or not
No, so I'd say
at this point.
when he's ready, he can present and give us
Sure.
more information.
Does the golf tournament interest you?
Yes. We did that for wrestling.
And they're big,
It was huge.
big money raisers.
Huge.
Say that again?
It was for Litchfield Youth Lacrosse.
Right,
Lacrosse.
so-
I'm getting all my sports confused. Wrestling. The
Wrestling.
Cougar Classic. It was awesome.
This would be for the benefit of the entire athletic program.
I think
So it would
that's
not
even
be
better.
sports specific.
Okay.
It would be, okay, what do we need above and beyond that we
Right.
don't have?
Right.
Correct. Yeah, so, but I've been involved in one at my former school, and it's a huge moneymaker.
Good. I like the way,
great.
the direction this is going in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too, especially in today's day and age, we keep talking about safety and all this, and yet we keep putting all our athletes out there, like go door to door.
I know.
Granted, it's Litchfield, I understand that, but it's still, they're out there,
Mm-hmm.
roaming,
Yes, they are.
roaming the streets and knocking on doors and
And what,
selling us stuff we don't want.
what do we
All
put
of
in our
these
kids
sound
in
like they have a
position?
wellness benefit to them. So I'm liking that.
Right, absolutely. Walking is good.
Well, it can be a community event,
Golf?
right?
Oh,
So
and
you
that's what
Well, right.
Absolutely.
schedule the hit-a-thon on a
Correct.
Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Have get the town to come out and cheer the kids
Absolutely.
on.
I don't think any of you were at the basketball game last night. I can't tell you how many little kids were there
It's awesome.
And,
I
and
can't
community members who weren't connected to basketball.
that have kids in the
Yeah.
elementary school that we could make it a townwide golf thing. It would be awesome.
Oh, that's
know.
how I feel like that's how
Yeah.
it should be. This town should be rooting on our
Mhm.
athletes.
Yeah.
And our, our robotics teams and all
There
of
weren't that
our,
many people that went to Kona to see the
co-curriculars.
girls.
yeah.
I was in Florida.
Yeah.
I was in Florida. We weren't
You?
together.
I don't even know where Conant is.
Everyone's got an excuse.
You know, one other piece of information, not related to fundraising or athletics. I just want you to know, do you recall our PSAT scores that went missing back in October?
Mm-hmm. Very well.
They've all been found, and the families have all received their scores. We just received final notification of that
Excellent.
this week,
Great.
which is great. And it wasn't anything to do with anything we had done. It was kids not following instructions, but them then having to go through the PSAT process of tracking them down and finding them.
But they're able to find them.
They were.
It's good news.
Yes, it is. Yep, very good news. Okay,
Excellent.
all right.
So yeah, just have Josh, when he's ready and has enough information and
I
wants
will.
to present, let Michelle know, we can get him on.
Okay, great.
I think we're all looking forward to like probably streamlining our fundraising.
Yeah.
And I like the idea as far as like getting the sport into it at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Is the board going to vote to approve these?
Not this time, no.
Okay.
There's not enough information and the
Okay.
person that's gonna be doing it is not here.
That's all I wanted to say.
But it looks good so far.
Okay,
I think if they sell it as a community event it's a great opportunity for the boosters to hop on and sell concessions. So,
Right.
You know.
absolutely. Yep, multiple opportunities there.
Yeah.
So the students should be here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I would assume.
Whenever they come in, we can
Okay.
get them in ready when we're
Great.
done whatever we're doing.
That's fine.
So correspondence.
I did not have any correspondence to the board.
I might have just heard someone, so I skipped a second, see if they're here.
Okay.
We can do superintendent comments.
Yep.
It's on.
Pulling in.
Is my future daughter-in-law here, perhaps?
Should we do the calendar?
I could be quick.
Is that good?
Actually, I don't think
Okay,
I'll
sure.
Backed into that girl.
It's what you get when I
Sorry about the
Yeah.
Hey, let me
get home at 3:30 in the morning, so we'll be quick, all right? So quickly on the calendar. So I have not heard back from the LEA yet with dates for next week. If you remember, we had asked them to send us some dates. Let me ask this. Should a board member or two, it feels like it's turning into a negotiation session. So, I mean, I'm comfortable sitting down with them and with Holly and just seeing what they are bringing to the table. But do you think that we should set this up where a board member or two are also present?
We've had sidebars. We've always had a member or two of the board there because it's basically negotiating something
Yeah.
as far as on the sidebar.
See, I just thought we could have the discussion, and then if there was something to come of it, we would obviously bring it to the board.
But
But
I think we're running
you know.
out of time. I think we gotta have somebody there,
all right,
I thought it was a yes or no, and
And I did not,
they needed to
I-
get their,
I was not, I think in the contract it says they have input, or they get to look at it and then provide their feedback on it. But I did not realize it was a whole membership vote situation.
It's not?
I don't, has it?
I mean,
been-
I can only go by, I don't know what their bylaws say,
Yeah.
right? So, they may say that,
They say in my calendar.
I don't know.
Okay.
Here it is.
I would ask what past practice has been. 'Cause this is the first time I've ever heard of them
I
going to
don't
a
think they
vote
ever,
on
I
the
don't think,
calendar.
I don't think they ever weighed in on the calendar. I think it's because the verbiage is different now in the contract as far as the time in between.
Right, but I think they always, I'm remembering from Jim, and I think Jim sends it to them and they say, yep, okay, that works for us. That, goes with the, maybe it's because it's a sidebar.
Well, it's because what you have is the actual interpretation of the contract on paper, right?
Yeah.
What we're asking is, do you really want to have these 2 days in between teachers and students, or do you want to get started?
Right.
That would involve a sidebar because they're
Okay. And that is
students will
what-
be coming back more than 5 days prior. And so we asked that question again. This goes back to the beginning of January. January 2nd, I think, is when they were asked. And, as the president explained, they've had a whole membership meeting and all these discussions and put together a committee and so forth. But we're now looking at, and so the communication I had today was, well, I'm waiting for you to give me dates. And I'm like, the communication I had with you was you were giving me dates. So we need to get dates next week. I think have at least
Get
one
dates to
board
meet?
member, sorry,
get dates to meet.
a date to
Oh,
meet
okay.
next week. And
Before they-
we have
yeah.
one board member there, me and Holly. I mean,
I'd say you have two board members.
2 board members? So who would like to volunteer? Who's available?
Yeah, I can do it.
Do it depending
Like a
on
potential,
too,
yeah,
whatever.
just throw
All
it
right.
there. And
Let me see what they have. I literally have every afternoon next week. I don't know. It's a weird week. I'm looking at my calendar like, ooh. So we'll find a time. We'll sit down with them and let's see what they have to say. I mean, it really is a yes/no question,
Right.
and I'm hoping what the membership gave them was permission to do it, make it work.
Or
I don't know.
can they schedule a meeting with their whole membership for the vote, or
I think they said they were
did.
having one.
Yeah, it's very confusing as to what we're doing, and
Okay.
we're now 2 months into this.
yeah,
And-
and people are asking, and it's not there.
A lot of people are asking about graduation date,
Yeah,
more
I was
than
gonna-
that, more than graduation
I was going to
date.
bring that up in school board comments.
Oh,
Since you
sorry.
brought it up. I'll bring it up. It's too early to discuss.
Okay. June 12th.
We're talking March 4th.
Okay.
It has snowed in the past in March,
Yes.
in April.
And Mother's Day floods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are a lot
As
of
soon-
unknowns.
And I'll say the same thing. I've said this now for like the last
Yeah.
5 years.
Just want to ask.
I understand that. So as soon as we can nail down a date, we're going to give it to them.
All right.
And I know that people need to make plans and everything else. Unfortunately, we're in a days calendar rather than an hours calendar, as we well know. And we have to wait. I can give you a date right now, but change.
Now, an hours calendar would have been much easier.
We could have told you at the beginning of school year when graduation would be.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So do you want me to do the rest of this, or do you want to bring the students in and then I'll
I'd say
pick back up?
if they're ready, we can. bring
Are they
them
ready?
in.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to hold them up.
Perfect.
and go home and get started on their homework.
Yeah.
Mace and Jeffrey. What? The twins. Oh my God. They're all here.
Look at all the red.
Yeah.
So, Sean, have a seat up there. We're 2 reps. Okay.
Tina, what's the earliest you can do?
You go chair up front there. Go in here as well.
Because it either
Oh,
after 12.
You guys grab a seat.
3.
Liz, what's
Quarter of
the
three,
quarter of 3? Okay.
except on Monday. I have a staff meeting, but if you can get me out of it, I
3
just want
o'clock.
you.
Any day next week. I'll say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 o'clock. What works?
Oh my God, I love the little sweatshirts. I want one of those, Chloe. Give me a sweatshirt.
I'm
It's a
replying back to my
champion.
email. I said that.
Oh, yeah, again,
I just threw it on the
Yeah.
floor.
that's fine.
So good evening, this is our Stuco, is this everyone? We're missing about 4 students. Okay. Mr. McDonough, as we all know, Council Advisor. Take away.
Welcome, everyone.
So thank you for having us here this evening. This evening, the student council officers are going to present to you what STUCO is all about. Just so you know about our day today, just real fast. We started our day at Campbell High School in school. We left today at 12:30 to go to Salem High School to a winter workshop for the state. We went there for the day until about 5:36, and we came right back to Campbell, got in our cars, and came here. So they're working double time, without a doubt. And I really, really appreciate them being here today. The office's presentation, which I think that you have, they'll talk more about that. But just one simple comment I have to say is I'm really blessed to have these guys. Like, I get an invitation to come here to your meeting here tonight. I send them out to the offices. What do you think? They say awesome. They send it to the council. They say awesome, and they show up. They're always there. It's almost like a second family in a lot of ways. And they've been in different leadership roles to make tough decisions, to support one another, and really be those leaders, that liaison between the students and the administration of Campbell. So I'm very, very proud of them. I'm very thankful for them. I really mean that. I wouldn't go away overnight with 29 kids with my wife as our time away with each other, with the kids I don't believe in, but I believe in these guys a lot. So it's all about them. So let them speak and go from there. So thank you.
Michelle, do you project the slides?
No, we don't have a projector.
You
You
don't
need
have
a
it there?
laptop.
Okay, so you guys.
Want to use mine?
You guys have it there.
Do you want mine? Oh, I have my laptop. Tara, you can use yours. I have mine.
You have one?
Yeah. Thank you.
Never let a student go on.
Do you have a copy of it, or do you need me to email it to you, Bill?
What's that?
Do you have a copy?
I have a copy. Yep.
You need the The cord.
HDMI.
It should be right in front.
I think it's this
It's
one.
right down in front of Brian.
It's right in front.
Jordan, will you grab that plug right there?
Right here?
Yep, that's gonna plug in. That'll help
Hopefully.
project it, we hope.
Who's the present button?
Go through this every week.
Was it what?
We go through this each week.
Every week.
Okay, you guys can actually, there it is. Who's coming up? Oh, okay, this will connect here.
Yes.
Right there.
My staff email. Oh, actually, let me just look at it up there.
Seriously.
Is that part of the new Brian, is that part of the new technology? Wireless stuff here?
Here we go.
Okay.
So who's,
They're all gonna present this.
yeah, okay, all right. Well, you want to set it up for presentation?
Go ahead. Faster than Scott. I'll tell you that much.
No, that's not how it
It's okay.
You sure it's right
Yeah, once it's in present mode, it should be fine. Thank you. It goes up. All right. So I'm Emma Montanaro. I'm co-president this year with Emily.
I'm Emily, president.
I'm Tyler. I'm the secretary of the council.
I'm Jordan. I'm the vice president of the council.
I'm Eddie. I'm the treasurer of the council.
Yeah. And I'm a senior. She's a senior. Senior.
Senior.
Sophomore.
Yes.
So we just made a presentation for you guys, kind of just to go over like everything we do, what we are.
Okay. I don't know why I was doing
All right. So yeah, the first slide is what we are. We have 29. Oh, it's
Seizure here.
You like that?
No, it's the wireless.
It's okay, Bill.
There we go.
It's okay.
All right.
So student council is a mixture of all the grades at Campbell, and we've just become very close as a family, and we communicate with others students in our school to understand any concerns. We're kind of like their voice. So there's 29 students this year, which is one of the highest we've had, and we put in hundreds of hours between community service, events, school events, and meetings like today, how we went to the district meeting. And we have meetings at 7 a.m. A lot of times when we have a lot of events coming up, we have 7 a.m. meetings on Wednesdays usually too.
So kind of like she said, what we do. So all year, including sometimes summer too, because we do put together like the whole freshman welcome day. So we'll come early for our school year too. So we work together to plan, execute, and just run a bunch of events at Campbell throughout the whole year. So a lot of the events increase like the unity in our school, the school spirit, teacher and like student relationships as well. We do a lot of fundraisers that help the families in Litchfield, other communities outside of Litchfield also. And most of the money that we do earn from the events goes towards some type of cause. We really don't take a lot of money for ourselves. Occasionally we do, but usually there's like a purpose or some need for the money that we give to people. And then these are just some group pictures of the council this year. The one on the right is from Waterville. And then on the left, that's before we were going to Waterville. And that's the overnight conference. And then here are just some events and pictures so you guys can actually see some of the things that we do. We did bring in an honor council book. I don't know if you guys want to look at it and like pass it around at the end.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I
perfect.
can show it to you now.
But on the left, we just finished. That's the carnations and mathematics that we just did in February. So we sold 200 carnations this year. That's all that we bought, and we sold all the ones that we bought. So that was good, and all this money actually went to a Sunshine Fund. So that was for a family in need. And then mathematics was kind of fun. You kind of find like your perfect match within the school. So you take like a survey, and then you'll get matched with people.
Yeah, it's a big hit.
Yeah,
so
it was-
a lot
it
of
was
kids
fun.
love that.
So that just finished like a week and a half ago. In the middle is just our Secret Santa bonding, which we usually actually do at Mr. McDonough's house, which is fun. We'll all go and we can give a Secret Santa to everyone. We just have dinner and just sit around and talk and kind of just bond as a council. This year we did it at the school at one of our meetings, and it was after one of our midterms. So for like 2 hours we sat and just like talked with each other. And then Waterville again is on the right. That's just the overnight conference at Waterville Valley. Like a bunch of different schools come, speakers come, and we just kind of talk about like leadership. So this year it was our first time hosting a conference for all of the other schools to come in. This was like our biggest thing because we've never done this before. So this is kind of like what we went to today. We had some schools come to us. We actually had the K-9 unit of New Hampshire come to our school. So they got to show a bunch of their like bomb dogs and attack dogs. So that's what you see on the left right there. That was really cool. And our theme was kind of like dogs because there is a family in Litchfield that is getting a special needs dog. Yeah, so she actually came, she hung out with us for the day. We gave some of the money to that family and we made treats. We got donations for the animal shelter. And we gave her some of that stuff as well for her special needs dog. So that was a big success for us.
When was that?
That was
December.
December.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say before, the beginning of December.
And then kind of just our last pictures with the events. We do a lot during the holidays. We try to just get everyone together, raise some money for certain things. It brings a lot of unity to the school as well. So we do a teacher breakfast. We all wake up and get to the school at 6 a.m. We cook the breakfast for all the teachers. You can see the buffet we do. So they'll come all and just eat all the food. On the right is our door decorating contest. So all the advisors of the school can do that. We set up the judges and everything for that as well. So that's a fun thing that everyone gets to do. That kind of is like a teamwork thing. We went caroling this year at one of the 55 and up communities in Litchfield, and they actually were really happy with that. They were excited, so they gave us like gifts and stuff. It was really
They were
sweet.
like, we've done it twice.
Yeah.
2 years now, and this year they were like, they knew we were coming, and we had
They were ready.
so we like communicated it, and they were like ready for the night, and they had treats at like every house. It was really cute.
Yeah.
nice.
So we did a few hours doing that. Then there's the tree lighting ceremony. That's kind of another big thing. I think there's some more pictures of it. Yeah. So that's another huge thing. You can buy the ornaments for $5 to remember a loved one or someone that you really care about, and you'll announce the name at the tree lighting ceremony. It's just kind of a nice way to remember them.
who you love and like
That also, yeah, that's also for a scholarship for seniors too. So all that money goes toward the scholarship for seniors. And then the middle picture is just one of the spirit days that week. Everyone wore PJs. It was just like festive PJs. And then these are just some upcoming events.
Okay, so like we as officers like come together a little bit more than the regular council does together. But we like to give leadership to them when like forming committees, and that's what we have for this. So we have a committee for the senior prom, we have a committee for Spring Fest, for the Easter fundraiser. So we like to have them like as a part of that too, instead of just like us focusing on it. But these are some of our upcoming events that we wanted to tell you guys about. So in March, usually around Easter time, we do volunteering at the local food bank in Manchester. So we'll all go there for around 4 hours, and we'll just help out, distribute food, carry the carts for the people that are there. And we think like after we do that, we all feel really good. And we just know that's a good way to give back. So we like to do that every year, and we're hoping to do that a little bit more now. This is a new thing we're trying to start, which is the senior citizen prom. So we want to have it at Campbell, I think. Did you guys pick a date?
Yeah, April 18th.
April 18th is when we want to have that. So we're going to decorate the gym and invite all the senior citizens from the town, post it on Litchfield It's Up probably, and try and get a good turnout for that. We think that would be really great. And then we have Spring Fest, which is a yearly event. This really brings the students throughout the whole entire school together, and we just have a lot of fun with it. The Easter fundraiser, we're actually going to be working with Mrs. Portillo, if any of you know who that is. She posted on Litchfield What's Up that she's going to be hosting an Easter egg hunt at Dara Pond. So we reached out to them, and we're going to be helping them with that as well. And then adopt a staff member. This year, obviously, we have lots of new staff in the Campbell community. So we're going to each be taking a new one. And then some, did we decide on the old ones as well, or just the new ones?
No, it's everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so
everyone
all
will
the
get
staff is going to be having a student council member. So we're probably going to have a couple each to work with. And so we can just kind of work with them, tell them what we're seeing. They can tell us what they're seeing. And hopefully we can be more cohesive that way.
good idea.
That's great.
Mhm. And we want to give them like gifts every
Gifts,
month too.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
once a month for like the next 3 months of the year, we'll give them like Dunkins or something.
So this is just some of the benefits to our community that we provide. So the first is our Sunshine Fund. Emma kind of brought it up a couple slides ago, but so if a family is in need in Litchfield and it's brought to our attention, we have a fund that can support them with a certain amount of money. And in 2020, our latest event was the Mathematics Incarnations. All the money we raised for that went to our Sunshine Fund. Every year before Thanksgiving, we have a food drive, the Make a Difference Week, and it's district wide. And this year we involved the community to bring in cans and non-perishable goods. That goes to our Litchfield food pantry. The district meeting was also brought up a couple slides ago, and that's like we made the dog treats and dog toys, and we donated that to Ella and the food animal shelter. If you go to the next slide, Holly Ball that we had in 2018, that was to raise money for Dr. Angie, who passed away that year. All the money that we raised from that was donated to her family. And then every year before Easter, for like the past 3 years or 2.
This will be the third.
This will be the third year. We go to the JFK Coliseum in Manchester, and on the Saturday they have a food drop, and which basically a lot of food is brought to that parking lot, and we kind of just help out families pick out and carry their food to their cars.
All right, so we obviously have benefits to the community, but we do give back to Campbell as well. And like through this, instead of giving money, like what we do for profit for student council, that's our homecoming week. That's strictly our profit. Other than that, it's all giving back to our community and giving back to our school and families throughout. But what we like to do is just spread positivity. That's what we like to give back the most, and spread school spirit. And we also like to provide a voice to the students so that they can come to us if they see anything, and then we can try and bring that to administration. We can talk about helping them out during our meetings. So some activities we have put on to develop school spirit include our Spring Fest weeks, our homecoming weeks, and our tree lighting ceremony. We find that those weeks really bring people together, and everyone's just honestly very happy to be at school in those weeks, and we think that that's a good thing to continue doing.
So now we have why student council and why we're like an important club to school. So it not only helps us, but like the school. So it helps with like life skills. It teaches with like time management. So like also me personally dealing with money and like business decisions. And then also like with Emmy and Emma setting up business meetings and stuff to meet with you guys or like the rest of our staff and stuff. It also introduces new friends. Some people you don't know into the school, even though it's a small school, but it allows you to build bonds between people you might not talk to otherwise. And then helps school, like keeps school interesting, like with Spring Fest and Spirit Days. That keeps like the liveliness in Campbell and helps people like want to come to school and like be excited about going to school. And then we also provide a voice for the students. A lot of people will come to us for like what we can do next and like what we should do, stuff like that. It's really big for the school. And then how it helps the town and surrounding areas. We do donations, like we said earlier with Ella's family and the food drive. We donated a lot of food to the food pantry this year, and we have in past years. And then fundraisers, like I said, to like families in need, people like that.
So these are some of just the past accomplishments we'd have over these past few years. So as seniors, like we've seen it change through the 4 years, but we've really worked to get new ideas as a council just to try and change things up and get more kids involved, because if stuff is obviously like repetitive, then kids seem to not be as interested. So if we change things up, they get more involved. So last year we did a lip dub, and we actually got 12,000 views on it. We started mathematics 2 years ago, or our freshman year, and then did it again this year. We now do self DJs at dances, which saves us about like $350 instead of hiring someone for the night. So we've made more profit from dances just because of that. We did an obstacle course last year at our Spring Fest, which kids really enjoyed. We've tried to change up the Spirit Days throughout the years. We do caroling now. The food bank is a newer thing, and we now have a spirit belt for students to win
if they have the most spirit in the school, or their grade has the most spirit in the school based on the week and the points they receive. Yeah. Do we want to show the flip dub or?
Yeah, if you guys want to see it, you can. It's 7 minutes total, but
We don't
if
have
you
to
want
show
to
the
watch
whole
the
thing.
first couple, you can. The entrance has the admin, so this is
It's well- it's well worth
first like
watching.
30
Okay.
seconds.
Show the first up until
I'll
it's
work
Even a
perfect.
bit of it is well
Yeah,
worth
show the
watching.
first couple minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Sound?
I hope so.
We've seen.
But I don't
it-
know.
it
I
did
think
work
you have
at
to
one
plug
time.
that.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, you
Maybe
do.
you could turn it.
Yeah, you do. You have to plug it in.
It might be on the other side.
I know that car.
Oh yeah.
Right there.
That's Keegan's. Oh, I hope they're all inside the Jeep.
Oh, they are.
Okay.
Oh, they are.
Sort of.
Ish.
Yeah.
This took like a lot of planning too.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It was fun.
The amount of maps.
Oh, there we
you
go.
drew out. Yeah, the whole like mapping out of the place. This is a typical morning. Right?
Looks like you're wearing a fanny pack.
My phone.
Return to the Mac. Get up what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit. Get up. First shot, hip strut walking. A little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious. Somewhere between like Rocky and Cosby's for the game.
This is from last year.
Got it,
Yeah.
Moonwalking in this year. It's our party. Is
that Carter?
Yeah. This is during our spring fest. That's why.
I shed my skin and put my bones into everything.
This is last year.
And yet I'm on that stage light. Going shine on down. Got that Bob Barker suit game and Plinko in my style. Money, stay on my craft and stick around for those pounds. But I do that to pass the torch and put on for my town. Trust me, I'm my INDEPENDENT. It's hustling. Chasing dreams since I was 14. We give that to the people, spread it across the country. Can't tell me nothing. We give it to the people, spread it across the country.
How did they make it upstairs so fast?
Be careful. Don't fall down.
I know. Oh, this is my high school song.
You can just skip this part. Go to the end.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's what I'll do it right when they. Okay.
I do it sometimes I don't. I finesse down with the road.
Oh, yes.
Might go down to G.O.D. I go hard on Southside G. I make sure that Northside E. And still.
Oh my God, who's that cute boy on the right? Number 32.
I was guessing.
She say, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. 50
This is killing.
I even got it tatted on. And you know me. Turn the 02 into the 03. Without 40 Ollie, there be no me. Imagine if I never met the broskies. God's plan.
Yeah, he did
God's
all the
plan.
recording and everything.
I can't do this on my own. Hey,
Wait,
no more watching.
I don't like those.
5 of those.
Oh, scary. Nice job.
can't wait to see 2020.
I know, right?
Turn the whole school upside down.
Yeah, maybe 20. No, I could tell a lot.
It's like old news now. We need something new.
So Jordan's just gonna pass around this book. It's an honor council book that we have to make every year, kind of just to show the is it national honors?
Right, it's the National Association of Student Council.
Yeah, the NHA. Yeah. They just need to see our qualifications throughout the year and everything that we've done. So we have to show. They give us a whole rubric, and we have to have everything that they ask for. So meeting notes, pictures, schedules, just everything that we've accomplished throughout the year. They'd like to see it and have an understanding that we actually did what we said we did. So yeah, that's just what the book consists of. Is there anything else?
I think it's just questions.
Questions? Yeah.
I have a question. How many students are from each grade level? You said you had 29 this year.
Yes. So there's kind of process. So every grade gets 3 representatives voted in by their grade.
Okay.
So there's an automatic 12 in the council, and then from there, vice president of every grade.
Yeah, so I ran for vice president of my class, and then I get into student council.
Oh, okay.
So we each have a vice president from each class, just so
I
it's
see.
easier to communicate to the classes as well. Yeah, so it's kind of like that communication right there. And then we also do honor council. So for those who don't get in the first time, they can come to like an appeal meeting, and they can just request to be in.
Yeah,
An interview kind of thing?
basically, the people
We'll
voted
question
in will
them.
question them, and then the people voted will then vote on them. And usually we do like accept a lot.
Yeah, we accept most of them all the time.
Who's speaking at graduation?
Who's speaking? Your student council?
Don't they speak?
I don't think they speak.
Never will be speaking graduation.
Surprise!
Yeah, Louis.
Get started.
I'm giving you a heads up.
Because you're So just real fast on the honorary council that we talked about, usually the popularity vote first, but the honorary council is for those kids who tried, right? But they really want it. And we found it 20 years ago, we put that in there. And that's really gone a little awesome. They don't remember 2 years ago, the council decides how many honorary members they want. There are 20 kids who want to be honorary members, and the council only want 12. And that was tough. I remember we stayed for 2 hours. They were deciding who those 12 were going to be. But it takes the popularity part, but also the desire to bring them together.
Yeah.
It works so well.
And we have one of the bigger councils too that we see.
Yeah, I think that makes it. I don't know. I think it makes more of an impact that way. You're able to reach more kids and have more of an impact on the community and on the school at large.
And they reach everyone in the school.
Yeah.
This is the group that sort of keeps things positive, that supports a lot of the activities. If we have questions administratively, usually there's a student council member or two that we call in multiple times over the course of the year to ask some questions and see what's going on. So they are sort of the heart and soul, so to speak. There's no question about that. And we have other strong student groups, don't get me wrong, but this is the group that leads more often than anybody else.
How many juniors are here?
I think
We're missing Abby and Travis are in Washington representing New Hampshire.
I just
for
wanted
a
to make
big
sure there were
conference
kids.
thing.
That's awesome.
And
Hannah's
wasn't able to make it today.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious. I didn't see many juniors.
It's time.
I think it's great what you guys are doing, and I'm certain, I know any type of volunteer work is a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot to do. So one of my questions, my question is, do you then ask the student body to help you with other things you're doing, or is it just the student council that operates and coordinates and does everything for these projects?
I would say it's mostly student council based. Like if we have an idea for a project, it's kind of us to do follow through and do the volunteering. But we get
we ask
the lift up, we got kids involved, and obviously the food drive, we try to get every school involved, and they're the ones reaching out to the middle school and GMS as well to make sure they bring in their cans.
One big way that students do get involved in volunteer work is more through student government than student council, because there's committees for prom and just other fundraising events too. So that's mostly how other students get involved, but it would be nice to just the council since there's so many events.
But that's an offshoot from the student council, right? Because that's what you showed that listing. Prom was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know like how student government works opposed to student council.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so there's for each class, like for the class of 2020, there's a president for 2020. Emily's the vice president, so she's in the student council as well. But if you're the president, if you're the secretary, the treasurer, or the historian, you're not in student council. Only the vice president is allowed in the student council. So there's that for each of the 4 grades. So they meet a couple times a month, and then those are the people that will plan the prom. Or those are the people.
Yeah, we put together the who the year was to be dedicated to the class speaker. Like that's a lot more. Come your senior year, we've definitely been meeting more and doing more events and more fundraising for our class. So any fundraisers for your class are done through your officers as well.
So the sophomore class held their dance just a short while ago, the semi-formal, which took a lot of organizing and made some money as well, correct? Yep, so then you have the junior, senior prom, which the juniors are the ones who coordinate that primarily. Yep, and then the seniors get all the graduation related.
All of that.
Yep.
The class gift.
Mhm, Yep.
I love that you're giving back to the seniors in our town because there are a lot of them. A lot. What do we have, 8?
We're so excited.
I
for
know.
this. We get new ideas from like events like Waterville,
Yeah,
and this one came up a lot in a lot of our groups. This senior citizen prom. So
great.
I think
How
it's
old,
fantastic.
how old is senior citizen? My husband might qualify.
too, Brian?
Brian definitely.
All I know is a couple years ago, I started getting my Wilson discount.
Tara and I are holding out for the
I know, I got a few more years. I
It'll be a
think.
mom prom.
We probably won't charge to get in either.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
ask for donations.
Aw.
And it's gonna be, I mean, we have a committee for it too, so if you guys wanna speak.
We're also going to think of a theme to have, like we're thinking of maybe like 50s themes, 60s, something older. So
Olivia, you gonna get John to come? Grandpa? He's gonna be there. Do a twist. Yes, John Madden needs to be there.
See, the thing is, the seniors are going up right now, actually the 70s. Your grandparents were
Yes.
50s.
So I can just like conclude just for a moment. I know you have the business. This is what I say to our officers. I say, what's your legacy going to be?
Mhm.
When are you going to leave Campbell?
Yep.
And I've been very blessed to be here 20 years. And I have to tell you, what I did as a student council advisor in 2000 and what I'm doing in 2020 is so much more. If we come to a meeting at 7 a.m. and they go, "Tell me we want to have a senior prom." I go, "Okay, let's have a senior prom." So I go to Kathy, "We're gonna have a senior prom." Kathy goes, "That's our date for April, okay?" So we come to the senior prom. But they're dedicated, and I really mean that. So I'm excited for the energy they have here and what they do. And they have to balance everything, huh? Home, academics, sports, and me. Okay, I'm a lot of balance, okay? Because I know I have wicked high expectations of them, and they do. These offices this year, you asked us about the juniors. We're losing tons of seniors.
That's what I was looking at. There are a lot of seniors out there.
So it's going to be a challenge. They've left a lot of different legacies. And honestly, Mr. Long and Mr. Perez and Jody and Josh have been so supportive of these guys too. So I just want to let you know, that's what I asked them, what's your legacy going to be? And they've really done a great job. So
Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you
you're
for
doing.
coming.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
you all.
Thank
You're a
you.
little intimidating with your matching outfit.
I love that
I mean,
sweatshirt.
today we're the only council matching today, and everyone's like, "There's so many beautiful people."
Yeah.
You guys are a force to be reckoned with.
I love that you're all matchy
We're the
matchy.
smallest school there, but have the most amount of people.
Wow.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you very much for coming.
Even PA didn't have that many kids.
Really?
Yeah. Like I was talking to one of their kids. He goes, "Oh, we have 60 kids on
You're
student
welcome.
council." I was like, "Thank you."
Thank you. I appreciate you guys being here.
At Pinkerton?
Yeah.
60 kids. Wow.
Yeah.
Mason, where's your sweatshirt?
So you can. Yeah.
You
wanna tell them?
I was told that the theme was Roaring 20s. I was the only person who dressed period appropriately.
He
That's
had the
awesome.
cane and everything.
Of course you
It was
did.
great.
That's
job,
awesome, Mason.
That was quick.
I believe we are. Thank you.
Very good.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
And did you two have anything to add?
No.
No.
Everything was pretty summed up right there.
You guys tired? You tired?
Back to you. Okay, so just to pick up where we left off, the dress code policy, I don't have an update. Last time we discussed that, I then left and just got back. So we'll get on that and get back to the board. Although I will say that we came back to 50-degree weather, so dress code is becoming a more important issue to get resolved. So we need to get this figured out pretty soon.
You could just go back to Roaring 20s. I like that look. That's fun.
Roaring 20s, that's not bad. Enrollment report, if you click the link to the February enrollment, just a couple of updates. It looks like we lost 2 pre-K students in the month of February. And so that's our downward trend with 2 students across the district. And I want to tell you also that the kindergarten registration, we have the January 31st number of 56. As of today, we're at 57. So we've only gained 1 more kindergartner in the month of February. Let's see, go back here. Job descriptions. So we have 3 job descriptions that we need a vote on, correct?
Yes.
We need the board to vote to approve them. And let me just walk you through what we've done. So the lead custodian one, basically you can see it in red at the top. So it still said site facility manager is who they report to. That position hasn't existed in quite a while. So we've updated that to include the custodial supervisor and the facility manager, which are the new positions that we've streamlined. And then you can see all the way through in red that we've taken care of that. And it's the same housekeeping piece on the other 2, which you're welcome to examine. But we're just making sure that grounds and maintenance know who they report to and the custodians know.
How are we staffed currently?
Terribly.
All right.
Corey, can you just give an update on where we are staffing wise? Because it's not a great situation.
No, it's not real good at all. So right now, with Joe moving to the custodial supervisor position, he's still helping out and opening up LMS, but the LMS daytime custodian is open. We have a second shift lead at CHS that's open. And I'm personally anticipating 1 more opening coming. They've had an interview today and he has one on Friday. So hopefully we'll get some of these positions filled. It's a struggle for sure. So we're very short and it's difficult to keep up right now.
Are there other places we can look to advertise?
Problem, no, I mean, it's out there. We are getting applicants. Some of the folks that are applying, one of the issues is honestly the pay. You know, they're leaving jobs. They would be leaving jobs where they're making more. There's no reason for them to move. So that's one of the struggles we're having right now, and it's
One good thing we have going for us is the weather's at least cooperating with us. So
for now.
Yeah.
For now. But it's when the economy is semi-good. I mean, these are the positions that go unfilled because there's opportunities in other places. So hopefully we'll be able to come around soon. Hopefully we'll be fully staffed. I know what the hope is if the budget passes next week, we add the 4th custodian at night shift on at CHS and we can get some things caught up. But we shall see.
How are you doing? Oh, I'll save mine for my board comments.
Motion to accept the changes to the job description, so lead custodian, grounds and maintenance custodian.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
2 other quick pieces for the board. The new principal, so Dan Mitchell has accepted the position and has been announced to the public. And I think the board probably saw the announcement that went out. And so we wanted to get that word out to parents and staff before the February vacation, make sure that everybody knew that we've got a new leader selected. Scott has reached out to Dan, has offered, a willingness to help him transition. And so I feel like we're in a really good position with March, April, May, and June still to go to smooth this over and to make this work out. So, and Dan's delighted. I think he's excited to get going. And I'm getting some grief from former colleagues in Bedford, but it's the way it rolls. And as I'm saying, hey, it's not July, right? Where you're stuck now. You've got an ample opportunity too. So
Tina and I got a message on Facebook saying our gain is their loss from a former
Parent.
PTO parent. Yeah.
oh, good,
Yeah.
excellent,
She was,
Thank
yeah.
you very much.
excellent, good. That's
Sorry.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, I just want to talk for a second about the coronavirus. There are a lot of, we're getting inundated with information from the state, just so you know. We're getting, it feels like daily emails from Health and Human Services. A lot of school districts have put out a district-wide superintendent notice about what's being done in the schools. We have not done so. And I just want to remind the board for a second that we started communicating about the coronavirus early February through the weekly newsletters from the schools, right? So the message is there. It's not like we're not communicating. But I'm just a big believer in not heightening anxiety. And I really believe the more I look at this, that there's almost information overload at this point. We're getting minute by minute social media updates
hysteria.
of how many cases there are, where they are, et cetera. And I don't want to heighten into that. And Mary actually participated in a webinar, and I said, all right, give me the 10-second brief, and it's wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Mhm. Pretty much.
All right.
Stay home
So,
when you're sick.
Wash your
Right.
hands and don't touch your face.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
basic flu training that we've all been through for years, right? So, you know, I'm going to send something out, I believe, just sort of saying, look, continue to monitor this. We're on top of it. Our emergency management team is meeting on Friday. It's on our agenda. You know, we do need to be ready in case there were to be a severe outbreak of some sort. But for right now, we're kind of keeping this relatively thin. And so I just want people to be aware that's our strategy. If the board thinks we're erring on that, we need to get more info out, please let us know that. But that's where we're headed with it.
If I can just jump in, I do know over the last week, at least 2 of the building emergency management teams have met specifically to review the plans and make sure that they were in line with what
Yeah,
we
and
have in our plans.
you know, remember the February vacation is actually, I think part of the purpose of it is to air out the buildings, let our custodial staff, which they did, they went through and cleaned and disinfected surfaces, doorknobs, desktops, et cetera. So all that stuff was done, and it allows everybody to get away, right? And we also did not have any student trips to a high caution area, if you would. So I feel like we're in a good spot, whereas other districts that took some measures, it's because they had a trip that went to Italy. We did not. And we're not even aware. I checked with the principals. Aside from a phone call or two, we're not hearing from parents. We're not hearing from the community. People seem very content with where we are. We're not aware of staff or students who have traveled to an area. So, you know, it's a district by district call. And I think not heightening the anxiety and adding to it is probably the best strategy. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Excellent.
Brings us to school board.
You answered my questions. Can you have the janitors check all the machines to see whether the soap dispensers and all are working in the high school? Yeah.
So
The soap
actually,
dispenser in the bathroom last night wasn't working, and a lot of parents had commented on it in the high school.
so we can double check that. We, back at the end of January, I asked to double check that the hand sanitizers were all working.
Oh, full, yeah,
We
those
found-
are awesome.
We found some dead batteries, and so,
Mm.
you know, they just had to be replaced. So
Yeah, we're lucky to have those. Those are huge.
Yeah. There was a post on Facebook about hand washing, you know, as everybody's taking away the hand washing thing and making sure kids had an opportunity to either, if not hand wash, then to use hand sanitizer before they eat. So I forwarded that to Tara as part of the wellness initiative to see if there is a solution, you know, bringing kids in from recess at GMS and going into lunch to make sure kids are eating with clean hands. And in LMS, I think, and at CHS, I think, I don't know if there are hand sanitizing stations.
There's mixed messages on there, but I think one of the moms said they send the handy wipes in with their kids.
Right, and that's a great
Yeah.
idea if they bring a lunch.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that
At least
there's
if I'm not
hand
mistaken-
sanitizer in all of the
On
lunch
tables. They're
rooms.
supposed to be on the
At
table.
GMS, on each table, each row table, there's a Purell bottle.
There is.
There is.
Yeah.
So that was
And the-
misinformation out there.
Yep, and the lunch and recess monitors,
And-
someone
and-
saw them last week, standing by the door, squirting the kids.
Like a
with-
cruise. I love that. Like a
Yeah.
cruise.
Right.
But I just want to, make
hand
sure that we're on
sanitizer
top
each
of that district-wide and make sure, I don't know what I don't remember if there's hand sanitizers at CHS as you walk in, but.
There are the ones on the wall when you walk in the caf. Yeah.
I've been in close contact with Dave and Joe just to make sure that, certain procedures are being done during the day in the lunchrooms, making sure tables are wiped in between lunches. And I will bring that back to them. and
It
give
could have
that
broken
feedback to
during the
make
day
sure-
for all we know.
But, just to make sure that these things are being checked, because especially at this time right now, you want to make sure that
And
we're
that's
taking
just
every
a
precaution
cold
necessary.
and flu season precaution.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Any other school board comments?
Oh, vote next week.
Oh, yes.
Right. Election day is on Tuesday.
Crept up
That's
quick,
correct.
didn't it?
Oh, I got my voter thing in the mail today.
Your voter
No,
guide.
yes,
The voter
they should
guide.
already, I have
They
some
want Friday.
copies.
Oh,
If
well,
you want-
maybe I didn't
they
get my
want
mail
them.
Friday.
Oh, we got
Saturday,
ours
Monday,
last
Tuesday.
week.
Yeah.
You should've
Oh,
got
I haven't gotten my
We
mail.
got ours last week.
So go out and vote. It's important.
Be informed.
Be informed. If anyone has any questions about warrant articles, especially on the school side, please send us an email or call the SAU or reach out on Facebook. And we'll make sure that you have the full story so that you can inform your vote.
And the voter guide seems like something we're going to be putting out annually now because
I
it's,
thought it's great.
and so
Yeah.
listen to feedback though. If people think it's too much or it was, I don't know, so you may be accused of bias or whatever. I mean, we're trying to be informative, but just listen to that feedback because we'll keep trying to get it better.
People might be tired after after the town stuff. Sorry, Selectman. It's going and going.
But it was a real partnership with the town.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
We share the cost of postage. It was minimal to get that into everybody's
I think
hands.
that's
And so,
important, especially now that.
It's very
you're-
important. Yeah.
And you're gonna get those views either way. You're either
Right.
giving too much information
I think
or
you-
you're not getting enough. So
And I think it actually gives you the ability to give more information than we did in the newspaper.
Definitely.
So those that weren't in deliberative or haven't seen deliberative have the opportunity to look at that. And really, if they have any questions, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, what they're for.
Is there contact info on that, on the voter guide?
let's take a look.
I didn't bring that. No,
While you're doing that, I just want to say congratulations to both the boys and girls basketball. Unfortunately, they both went down to defeat.
But they were killer. The best defensive game I've ever seen. 26-30. Like I've never seen such a low scoring. And the girls killed
And then
it.
you have the girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
The first
That-
time they played Coney, they lost by about 60.
I saw that.
Right. Yeah.
It was like ridiculous. And they came back and they gave them a fight and ended up losing by 6.
Wow.
Oh, but
Tori Allen fouled out in the third quarter, so they didn't have any entire fourth quarter. It was the first. But and they still held their own.
Yeah.
So
They
they'll
should
be-
hold
they'll be
their
a-
head high.
There'll be a reckon to deal with next year because you only losing one senior for the girls and juniors move up. So they'll be a stronger team next year. But
So
they played well.
Was on Saturday, boys.
in the
Girls was
voter
on
guide,
Saturday, boys was
Tina, it's in
last.
here twice.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe we should make it
26:30.
Oh, also, yeah, so there was just a post on the Litchfield, New Hampshire, Litchfield NH Facebook page that Scott Taylor was not listed as a budget committee
in the
candidate.
voter guide.
In
That's
the
correct.
voter guide. I noticed that.
He's
too.
Oh,
on
he
that.
wasn't?
He's not in the voter guide, but he is on the ballot.
Oh,
And he
okay.
has been.
He's on the voter guide on the website now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and he has been in the threads on the WhatsApp page. So,
And it does have contact info for both the town and the district. It
perfect.
directs to the website to let people know where info is. So it's pretty thorough in there. The one thing I was thinking too is, if there, a possible enhancement is sort of a summary page that just says town article, what it is, like just a very quick thing. And then the select board, yes, budget committee, no, or whatever. So that
I
you can
see.
sort of have
Voting
a really,
results
because it's
That's what I look at.
it's all in
That's all
here.
I look at.
But I think the thing is, if you do something like that, then people may miss what's the
They may not
content
read
is.
it.
And I don't
That's
think
that's
that's just yes or no, because some pass yes or no, 9-0, and
Yeah.
some pass 5-4.
But
True.
what if we
Good
just
point.
put a sample ballot page?
Yeah, it's another possibility.
We usually
A sample ballot page.
Ended up being the
We
annual
used to do
report we
that
send out.
for the newspaper.
Yeah,
We kind of hesitate putting it in here, adding more pages gonna make it more costly. Plus, people try to take them with them to the, sometimes they try to take them to the voting and that's not allowed.
Oh,
So,
it's not?
and and they may not know that they can't take them there.
Oh, I see.
We've had that happen before.
I used to
My
do
wife
too.
always did.
I always did. It's my cheat sheet. 34 articles on there. I need.
Yeah.
I did that in
Right.
Londonderry.
Fast.
I did that in Londonderry the first time I voted in Londonderry and I was stopped right at the door.
Especially when
so-
I had toddlers in tow.
You gotta carry it in your
Right.
You gotta smuggle it. You gotta smuggle it.
I know you gotta smuggle it in.
All right, any other school
on
board
your phone.
comments? None? That brings us to community forum, and we have no one from the community attendance.
Fine.
No, they already said they don't want to add anything. They don't even want to be on camera.
Is that why you're over there? Cheaters.
All right, so we have set of minutes from February 19th, 2020.
Except for February 19th, 2020.
I'll second. I did make some comments. Did you?
All set.
All right, thank you. Then I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Ms. Widman is going to present to us climate. and culture.
Okay. So I have two presentations tonight. The first being a bit of a summary about our building climate data. So let me just jump into it. So as part of our Title IV grant application, we bumped over the threshold by like $3. So we had to do a district-wide comprehensive needs assessment. And we thought that it was a good opportunity for us to be able to, at the same time, do some surveying around climate and culture and things of that nature, which is one of the parts of Title IV. We did it during the last couple weeks of December. We sent it out to all parents, to most students, and all staff. And I'll show you in a minute what I meant by most students. Once we got the data in, we basically categorized it into district data, building climate, instruction, and support. Those were the 4 categories. The district information really was just around communication and support within the mission statement, things of that nature. So tonight, I specifically am bringing the building climate and culture data, specifically from the staff and students. What we did see in general in collating this data is that most of the time, especially in the areas of climate and instruction, the students and parents, responses were very similar. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So just to give you an idea of who participated, what our numbers look like, from GMS for staff, we had 45 staff members. LMS, we had 24, and CHS, we had 35. And that includes support staff. So it was sent out to all staff. For students at GMS, we only surveyed 3rd and 4th grade. So they did it in their computer class. So we had 153 students take the survey. At LMS, it was done across the board. So we had 367, clearly some couple kids absent. CHS, I know they sent it out to all students and then did try and push it in advisory. So we had 206 CHS students respond. And for parents, decent turnout, 122, 113, and 97. We did separate it with the parent information so that they could, if they had students in multiple schools, they could respond for all of them.
I'm surprised at the low staff turnout.
Is this including paras or is this just
This was
everyone?
staff.
So the link that's like CHS staff?
Yes.
That goes
it
to
went
everybody who works at the high
CHS
school.
staff, LMS staff, and GMS staff. It went to everybody in the building.
How many people work at the LMS? Do you know the numbers?
I don't know them off
It
the
has
top
to
of my
be-
head.
That adds up to 104.
and we have
It's about 50%.
district. Yeah, it's about 50%, a little over. We have just about 200 in our last PD day when we accounted for everyone. We were just over 200. So, okay. So I just want to review what these are basically the questions, and then the data. It's color coded because you're not going to really be able to see those numbers. I apologize. They're a little squished in there. I will preface this by saying I put this together when I was deathly ill and thinking that I was going to try and come to the board meeting that night. So,
I remember.
So the first question that we asked in terms of building climate and culture was, the climate is positive and student centered. And the responses for most was agree, disagree, or neutral. GMS is a little different. That's why you see the 2 shades of green. Because of the age group, we chose to go with always, sometimes, never. And I don't know. So you can see there is a disparity in terms of the staff view on the positivity of the climate and the students. Between sometimes and always, for the students, you're looking at well over 95%. Whereas, we have it's 67.4% that agree that the climate is positive. But you also have another 18%, more or less, that are neutral about it. Personally, the neutral kind of worries me. That
Can't decide either way.
yeah.
That's concerning.
But they're there to do a job and they're not getting caught up in all of the stuff. That's how I
well,
look at
I mean,
it.
I guess you could look at it that way as well.
Yeah.
For LMS, you see
Oh, wow.
a little bit more of a disparity.
They didn't have a
um,
neutral category?
no.
Nobody picked it?
Nobody picked neutral for the staff. This almost 92% of the staff agree that it's positive and student centered, and 61% of the students. So, and it was interesting that there wasn't a neutral there. It was either all or nothing. You
Yeah.
had 8% disagree.
Strong feelings.
Yep.
From everybody. Wow.
And at CHS, a little more skew, but there is there is a small sliver of neutral in there. You're at 77% more or less that agree for staff, as opposed to 46% for students. And that to me that's telling.
Yeah.
But the fact that almost 40% are neutral, when we look at the disagree, they're pretty equal. But
So they don't think their school helps them, or it's
a
felt
positive.
as a positive.
As a positive
That
environment.
makes me sad.
But they also don't think it's not
Right.
positive
Yeah.
and
Right.
student centered.
Yep. So
Do you guys have any input on that?
I'm in the green on that one.
Yeah.
But I think it's just very hard to get high schoolers. Honestly, it's so hard to get us to do these surveys because we'll be an advisory and there'll be kids that are like, no, it's too much work to pull out my Chromebook. I'm like, is it though? But which is why I think we should bring it back to the council on how it's important to get students to really.
I think we need to have everyone do it to get accurate results.
Yeah.
Because
Have it
after-
extended advisory.
Exactly, because we really did push it in advisory, but it's hard to do when some advisors don't push it on the
Yeah.
kids. They just say to do it, but they don't push it on us.
Yeah.
Which if it was pushed on us, then I think more kids would fill it out.
How do you guys the neutral thing again kind of concerns me. If they did bother to take the survey, but then they just chose neutral, it doesn't give us any.
Yeah, but does the neutral also come to positive and student centered? They think it's positive, but they don't think it's student centered.
Oh.
right, it could be one or the other.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of students.
There's a lot to interpret there.
So I think next year what you do, if you can do this again for the students, tell them that randomly you're going to pick 5 students and they're going to win a $10 gift certificate to Dunkin' Donuts or something if they fill out the survey.
That's actually so true. Yeah.
But this is half of the students.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, in looking at, and I mean, I've dug through a lot of this data on all areas. I found there was a space for open response, and most of it was instructional, in all honesty. So
At
when
the high
we
school?
when we in general,
Okay.
the feedback was very honest, and
Good.
that I was impressed with that. Very specific at all levels, at all levels.
Are you gonna
So,
share that with us?
Brian, it shouldn't be done.
when we
It
talk
should be
about
done.
instruction, yes.
Should be what?
Oh,
Our
in
own
instruction,
coffee
but
shop.
this.
Yeah,
didn't
this
have
is
a
just because I was doing the two presentations, I wanted to
$10
focus
gifts.
just on the climate
Yeah,
and culture.
yeah. Did you get a lot of open responses on this?
No.
Okay.
No. The majority of the open response was connected to instruction.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. So the second part was focused around the main office. And again, looking at staff versus students, main office is warm and welcoming.
Wow.
This was our biggest discrepancy in terms of, and you'll see in a second, in terms of staff. We're looking at about 77% of the staff agree that the main office at GMS is warm and welcoming. And for students, quick math, they're looking at about 90%.
But that means 20, I can't tell if that's a 9 or a 0 of the staff don't think the main office is welcoming.
There's 21%
The
that say
headquarters.
it's neutral, and
Yeah.
2% that disagree, that think it's not warm and welcoming.
I'm trying to remember how many students interact with the main office. How often do students?
Quite a bit.
Do
When
they?
I'm in there, kids they're coming in, they're signing out, they're,
Getting their
especially
birthday
with,
pencils.
especially in the front window, in the front
Yeah,
window with,
Okay.
and coming in and out with, if they have to buzz in, things,
Yeah, bring the attendance down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we look at LMS,
Oh, that's awesome.
clearly the staff feels very supported by their
That's fantastic.
main office, and that's great. I think that I'm a little less concerned with the neutral from students, because it does raise that point. How many students are interacting on a
Right.
regular basis so that they can form an opinion with the
Or they
main
might be
office?
called down the office for not so happy.
Correct.
Right.
Those are, I'm assuming those are that's the 10% that disagree,
Yeah.
because they only get called down when they're in trouble.
Sad
I get
place.
that. It is not a happy place for them.
I like that the staff likes it.
And you'll see the same thing from CHS.
Wow.
So
Wow.
very positive. And I like to see that it's pretty common staff and students in terms of that main office. You have only 1.5% that disagree that it's warm and welcoming. And again,
They're all in detention.
they're probably the kids that are getting called down for not so nice things. So I thought that was pretty positive. School building is welcoming and safe. Really focusing on the school safety here. This surprised me that we're looking at 56% of the staff only that agree that the building is welcoming and safe
It doesn't
at
surprise
GMS. It doesn't when I read some of the comments. This really had a lot to do with
The facility.
the facility.
Oh,
Yeah.
The old building.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I think teachers looked at it from a different lens. They're looking at the safety of students. They're looking at going between the mods, things of that nature. The fact that the kids feel that it's welcoming and safe is that's
That's
what we want to see.
Yeah.
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 Looking at LMS, staff feels very safe there. Students.
Calm about the Dunkin' Donuts.
I was gonna say.
A lot more neutral here.
Because they're the
than-
ones running from the portables inside the building.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't feel safe running in and out.
Yep, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, because there
I think
is.
Tom handed them out, like the car dealerships do. So you're going to be getting a survey, and all I want is 5s.
Anything less than a 5, I get a failing grade.
Help me out.
And then CHS again.
Okay.
There's nobody disagrees. So
Wow.
our staff is feeling welcome and safe
I'm
in
glad.
that building. And again, the students.
But a lot of them disagree.
There's a small sliver disagree.
I think safe in high school means a lot of different things than it does in elementary and middle school.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And, I I think that the fact that we're looking at 7% who don't, I would like that to be 0.
Right.
But that is a small percentage, and
We can work on that.
You would hope that the places they spend a third of their time,
Yeah.
they feel safe.
Mhm. But again, there's various levels.
Right. That could
The
be social,
question was
emotional.
written as the school building,
Right.
meaning the environment when you come in was how it was meant, but that could be interpreted as, the people that they're interacting with. Maybe there's
Is that
kids
what
that
you guys thought?
Yeah,
Like
I
safe,
honestly thought it meant like not just safe from like intruders or stuff and things like that, but like safe from like you don't know someone's home life, so things like that. Feeling
Oh.
safe at school with like teachers and being able to confide in teachers, things like that.
Yeah. So, and those were the 3 questions around climate and culture within the building, with the specific buildings. So just to give you an update on what we're doing with it, the school specific data has been given to all 3 buildings. It's being reviewed during their data team meetings. I know that that the middle school and elementary school have already started looking at it. The high school had not when we met for our last admin meeting, but they hadn't had a data team meeting since.
But they don't know how the other schools did.
No, they have an overall, we put the numbers together so they could get an overall view, but only the buildings got only their specific graphs, and the buildings got the
Well, that's all they
narrative
need. I
data.
mean, that's what they need to
Mhm.
focus on is their building.
Correct.
And they need to focus on how can I make the entire thing green?
Well, how is LMS doing it and CHS? And
Well,
It's-
they did,
it's
but they
diff-
got that general
Oh,
breakdown.
okay.
They got the general percentages. What they didn't get from the other buildings is the feedback and comments
Oh, yeah,
that came
they don't
through,
read that,
and they didn't get the graphs only because we did those separate by.
Could I just
Yes.
ask, possibly for next year, kind of like with rubrics, they're saying don't go with like 3 or 5 because the
Right.
2 and the 3 are always the easy out. Maybe go with the 4 responses next
Mhm.
year so that there is that determination if somebody does feel unsafe, or like I was thinking about the safety one myself. I'd probably pick honestly, I'd pick neutral automatically because I don't feel unsafe, but I don't feel any safe going to go anywhere else in school year. So it's not that I feel unsafe, it's just that's what I
Safe,
probably pick.
safest.
So I'm just, well, they say more and more, you make it so somebody actually has to think if you have 4 rather than 5,
Yeah.
because everybody picks the middle
Right.
automatically on a lot if they don't want to think about it. So if you have 4,
And this was a little bit of a balancing act. I think that's great feedback because you're right. We got a lot that neutral needs to somehow be eliminated one way or the other. But in all honesty, with the title grant, there is a specific survey that they suggest. It was not in line with what we were looking for. So it was kind of trying to marry the 2. So I took a lot from that. And now moving forward, I when we were looking at the data, there were a lot of questions that came up as like, maybe we needed to rephrase that. And the idea of not using the 3 choices, I think is great. So at the building level, we did ask principals to start to take a look at any gaps, any big discrepancies, and come up with some plans to address them, some action steps to address them. And then as a district, we've started talking about this in our admin team meeting with what are some action steps that are being done in the buildings, but also what are some things that we're seeing trending across the district. So early stages of conversation, but we are having some good conversation around.
Overall, it's good news.
Yeah.
But definitely some areas we need to work on.
I just like what I'm thrilled with is that it's not just a piece of paper we look at and say, great, you're actually have action going on about it to improve it. Thank you.
I will say in my report for last month, the data teams have been, I really think that has been a great formalized thing that we've done because it has given all buildings an avenue to really dig into some of this and not make it that, okay, great, awesome, thank you, we get our scores and then move away from it. And I will say that LMS has really made it part of their culture, which is fantastic. Tom and Martha have done a lot of work with the teachers there. They're doing it in their weekly PLCs as well, like consistently. They are in the other 2 buildings as well, but it really has been a priority at LMS. So that is,
And Bill mentioned today that I think in their faculty meeting on Monday,
they reviewed some of it. Yep.
they've shared all that with the faculty
Yeah.
and have said there's a discrepancy here. So we have to figure this out. So the
Mm.
committee will take that feedback,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
definitely making some headway.
Any questions, comments? All right, let's get out of this one. Go into the next one.
By the way, if the students have a suggestion on how to improve that number, the number of students who take it, let us know that because we pushed, as you know, we were pushing, but 50% is just not
Right.
enough. So
Well, and
we're
I
missing
feel
a lot
like
of
we
voice.
need
in
more
there.
staff members as well. The
Agreed.
fact that only half of our staff
Agreed.
responded. I mean, let's stock up on gift cards.
I think, I think
Do what we got.
having experienced this in a few different ways, I think we see the same thing when we did our feedback surveys and
Yeah.
things of that nature. There is still the fear that even though we say it's anonymous, that it's not. And
that's true.
It's not a Litchfield thing. That was always the fear in my last district
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
When you use Google, that somehow we are going to be able to trace it back to them.
Right.
And we've had a lot of teachers come and ask Jason, and he's been able to show them like, no, we can't. But it's still there's a
There might be a,
a
piece
trust
of it
factor.
too that goes back to what Rob said, and that people, we're in the habit of filling out a survey and nothing ever comes of it.
Mhm.
There's never any action taken
Yep.
on our
Yep.
on those things. So seeing that,
yes,
your input really does matter, and that we really do value it, and we're going to act on it, will help in the years to come.
Yeah.
Are we planning to do this on a yearly basis?
Well, if we continue with if we continue to get the funding for the Title IV, it stays the same at the state level, then we would have to
Okay.
do something along
I think
these
we should
lines.
just to keep a pulse on how we're doing.
But I think our intent is to do it on an
Yes.
annual basis
Okay, good,
because
good.
it's just important data. And
It
so
is.
great. I want to see more green next year. The
Yeah.
only way
Right.
we're gonna
We
know
want to
is
be
if
able to
Yeah.
look at last
work
year to
on it,
this
set some
year.
goals, and then
Yeah.
remeasure.
I agree.
So the other thing that I'm going to talk about tonight is competency-based grading and reporting. I'm going to kind of breeze through these first slides because this is actually the presentation that I gave last fall, spring, I don't remember, but to the board. I've kind of compiled them because my intent is to start posting these on the website and do some narration and things of that nature to start getting it out to parents and communities. So starting with what is competency-based ed, we talked a little bit about learning the knowledge and skills as opposed to the drilled down content and ensuring students acquire the skills that are necessary for post school, whatever that might be, whether it's higher education, whether it's career, or whether it's general adult life. So we talk a little bit about they're written off of the national standards or the state standards. New Hampshire's still a little bit behind with some of their state standards. So as we've been progressing, we tend to go, if they haven't adopted state standards, we're working off of the national standards. And there is an expectation that students will reach proficiency in the competencies in order to progress to the next level. And grades are based off of their progress in each competency. And again, we know that mastery of the competencies is a requirement in the state of New Hampshire. We also know with local control, everybody's in different places with this. Competencies are observable and measurable. They're generalized behaviors and they're limited. Your standards, you have a lot more standards than you do competencies. And as we saw math come forward last year, there was tons and tons of standards. We have 2 competencies. So, but each standard falls under one of those. Competencies are not standards. In many districts across the state will use those words interchangeably, which is frustrating when you are really trying to educate people because of that change in language and you go district to district and they're using the word standards, but what they're really talking about is competencies. So just understanding what the language means. And competencies aren't targeted. They aren't a specific a specific skill, they're more generalized. The standards are more targeted. The competencies are more generalized. Okay, so just to give, and I actually updated this. This is not approved, but this is one of our proposed ELA competencies that we just drafted. So this district competency, communicate and interpret well-structured arguments, narratives, and informational explanatory pieces in order to express various perspectives. And you can see underneath there the grade 4 standards that would go into that competency. Okay, so this really is where I wanted to pick up with the board and talk about competency-based versus traditional, really looking at grading and reporting, because that's a where we're at. So key factors to each. A traditional system is based on seat time, whereas a competency-based system is based on demonstration of proficiency. You'll often hear it referred to as move on when ready. That is very idealistic, but that is the philosophy behind it. Traditional system is focused on remembering content, where competency-based is application of knowledge and skills. Teacher-centered versus student-centered. In a traditional system, instruction and work is common, whereas in competency-based, it really has to be personalized to get the kids to the right level. Traditional is on a 100-point scale. A competency-based system tends to use a 4-point scale. You'll see some districts will use 5, some will use 3, but as Rob was saying, 4 is really the sweet spot because it gives you can't just go middle of the road. In a traditional system, grades are typically divided by the type of assignment, whereas in competency-based, they're divided by competency, and anything connected to that is scored based on that competency goes up to make the proficiency. So you move away from the test, quiz, classwork, homework kind of breakdown to a, reading, writing, listening, speaking. Those are our competencies. That's how our grades are being inputted. So in a traditional system, behaviors and non-academic skills are included in grades. That's where you get the participation grades. That's where you get the extra credit, things of that nature. But in a competency-based system, they are not included in academic grades. There has to be a clear distinction between the two. That's where our work study practices come in. So grading in each, really in a traditional system, assignments receive a concrete score based on correctness. You have 100 questions, you get 98 of them right, you get a 98%. Whereas competency-based assignments are typically graded off of rubrics, and there is just a demonstrated level of proficiency. So it's not 4 out of 5 right, it's where do you land on that rubric. In a traditional system, all assignments are included in the average. In a competency-based system, only assignments that are specifically assessed the competency are included. So there is a lot of formative assessment that goes on, or check-ins, or vocabulary quizzes and things of that nature. That doesn't mean they all go away. They just don't go into that competency grade. Extra credit, participation grades, late work penalties. In a traditional system, those all impact the subject and course average, whereas in a competency-based system, they don't. They impact the work study practices. Okay, so what does it tell us and what doesn't it tell us? In a traditional system, it tells us an average of all work in a course, regardless of the purpose and scoring method. It also tells us how you rank compared to other students taking similar classes. What it doesn't tell us is what topics and skills you've mastered or still need to work on in the course. The way we traditionally grade all of our tests together, it's really hard to decipher where that room for growth is. And it doesn't tell us your progress towards competency in those 21st century skills. Okay. Oh, I was meant to change that wording. Not what does it look like and what might it look like in Litchfield. Sorry about that. So again, it should give insight into the student's level of proficiency in the competency at that particular moment in time. Let's talk a little bit about where we are now. And really, I included this because I want to make sure everybody sees that we are in very different places in all 3 buildings. Okay. GMS is using benchmarks that are not current, and the teachers prior to me coming have been talking about the fact that they really are, they aren't in line with what they are teaching in their curriculum. There are multiple grading systems depending on the grade level and the subject area. There are 3 different, and that I might be wrong, there might be more than 3. There are 3 that I think of off the top of my head, different sets of grading descriptors at GMS. And the work study practices are using building rubrics with district descriptors. So there is some positive to this. At LMS, they are strictly a traditional grading system. There is some consistency within the grades and the teams. It's not consistent as to which ones, if it's across the board. They are a 0 to 59 F and a 60 to 100 passing. There is no competency or benchmark reporting, and their work study practices are graded using the building rubrics with district descriptors.
The new ones you have?
Yes.
Good.
Yep, all 3 buildings. You see, I did put that piece in.
Is there any discussion about 60 chances to fail or 59 chances, 60 chances to fail and only 10 chances to get a D, 10 chances to get a B?
Yes, but there's a lot of discussion going on right now. And in the next slide, you'll see.
And I do want parents and community members to know I'm not looking to make everybody pass. An F's an F, but
Right.
the weighting
But-
averages are out of whack.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if
Chances of an F.
a 50 is failing just as much as a 0 is failing. But you can recover from a 50.
A 50, exactly.
At CHS, we are using a traditional grading system, but reporting out on competencies. So we're kind of in the middle there, and we need to do some cleaning up is the way I would look at it. There is some consistency within departments. We see a discrepancy here in that 0 to 64 is an F at CHS and 65 to 100 is passing. Grades include a content-driven midterm and final exam. We are also working to make those more competency-based, but right now, 15% of semester 1 and 15% of semester 2 are based off of what I'm seeing as a very content-driven, not competency-based assessment in most cases. There are some that are, and some that are really moving in that direction. And again, work study practices are graded using building rubrics with the district descriptors. So that's our commonality, really, is the work study practices, and that's the work that we did last year.
But Mary, even though we standardize that, we're not reporting out on it.
Yes, we are.
We are.
Yeah.
So it's on the,
report cards in all 3 buildings.
but it doesn't go on the transcript.
No.
Okay.
No, not that will come here. Okay, so just to refresh, these are our current district descriptors. It is my hope, these are the ones that are on the work study practices. It is my hope that as we progress into doing 4-point rubrics, we will use the same descriptors. I don't see any reason that we wouldn't unless there's feedback as we use these more that they're not working.
I think it's very clear language as to what the difference between a 4 and a 3 and a 2 is, and a 1.
So I'm going to preface this by saying this has not gone to grading and reporting. Some of this we've started some of these conversations, but this really is in response to my feedback when I did my feedback survey to the staff. One of the big things that I got for feedback was that people don't know what my vision for grading and reporting is. And in all honesty, they don't, because in my first year, I didn't want to come in.
Right.
This is what we need to do. I want to make this
theirs.
So, but for this, I've articulated it and what I would like to see us do, and we'll move from there. So between now and the start of the next school year, we know that we're switching to Power School, and we will set up Power School with common grading scales, and grades will be inputted by competency at all levels. Between now and then, the education of all stakeholders on what that means is really important. And that's parents, that's students, that's staff. We started some training with staff on, here are my assignments. What competency would they go into, or why would they not go in during our last PD day? So we've started having some of those discussions on a large scale. We've had them for the last year in grading and reporting, and I know in different teams in different buildings, they're having them more and more. We also there's been a lot of conversation, and I really put this on CHS to start because it's where the conversation has come up the most, is we need to figure out how to give those work study practices more teeth, give them more value. And we've talked about, do we tie it to honor roll? Do we put it on the transcripts? Is it eligibility? What is going to give them some teeth? And so there's discussion going on around that. And then of course, especially important at the high school level is to have a clear competency recovery program and protocol. And that we will have to have shored up this summer.
Yeah. Does this get us onto a 4-point scale
Eventually.
as we set up Power School?
Eventually. It doesn't get us up to a 4-point scale yet because we haven't finished revising our curriculum, and B, we don't have rubrics built or performance assessments in a lot of areas.
Okay.
And those are pieces that really should be at least moving before we get all the way to a 4-point scale.
That makes sense.
So during the 2021 school year, so for the next school year, it's my vision to have each competency assigned an equal weight in Power School so that we are creating a hybrid model. It will really give everyone a year to figure out what goes where. And I think back to when I was still in the classroom, my grades were listening, speaking, reading, and writing, 25, 25, 25, 25. And those grades were what made that percentage, that traditional percentage. And so I think as we are working, and we've ripped the Band-Aid off this year with this. We really did. The transition to Power School really sets us up to make the move across the board to competency reporting. So really taking next year to help people to understand and make sure that we're putting grades in the right places, things of that nature, and how, and really focus on what we're grading, how we're grading it, and whether or not it fits into where it fits into the grades. And with the courses that are already revised, which will be math, social studies, and ELA, fingers crossed, we'll begin developing performance assessments and competency rubrics. We're going to start that process. We started it with math over the summer, but in all honesty, with our limited time and the focus being on the revision of social studies and ELA, it hasn't gotten a whole lot of traction. So then what I did is I really grouped, it's a 5-year plan. It's my 5-year vision. So by the year 2025, we would have our rubrics and assessments developed, performance-based assessments in all subject areas, in competency rubrics in all subject area, for all competencies, excuse me. We would have started to do some training and focus on inter-rater reliability when using the rubrics, because that is something that comes up quite a bit in competency grading, is when you are doing these common pieces, are we scoring them the same way? Are we looking for the same things? And it's never going to be perfect, but we want to start to have those conversations more. By that point, we can transition the competency scores from the 100-point scale to the 4-point scale for our reporting on competencies, which brings us to the last piece. By that point, we're going to need to decide as a community if we want to continue with the hybrid model or if we want to transition to a true competency model. I just gave a whole lot of information.
Way a lot.
I loved
You
it.
missed the first half of it.
I know what it is. Yeah. I guess I don't understand why we talked about rounding grades when you were sick. Like one school rounds grades, one doesn't round grade. One is a 59 and one's a 64. How can that happen?
Let's back up here. Hold on.
Hold on. You can have a 59 and a 61 in this one. I know you're gonna fix it.
Set up our school with common grading scales and all current
I think
competencies.
that goes back to when they started competencies, and that was like a direction the state was going. If I remember that, you're really not passing at 60. But I think that's where that came from. Like,
That's the middle school though.
No,
Is
no,
it
that was the high school
59?
that had this. The
64.
High school is
the high school
64.
is 64. And I think that goes back to the original competency model where you're not really passing at 60, 59, I think. And it probably just started.
Trevor, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I think it's extremely inconsistent right now.
Yes.
Through my 4 years at Campbell, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the student body can agree with me. There are teachers who put the same grades in all 4 competencies.
Correct.
Yeah. Anything can just kill your grade. Anything can boost your grade.
Yeah.
While in other classes, it's actually competencies and it actually works. And I just, it has to be fair for all the students, because if we're not consistent, it's not going to work.
Correct.
And I think if this actually does go through, I think it can work. But like for right now, we still got to keep working on making it consistent.
Which is why it's not, I mean, clearly we know we're going to transition next year. It's not going to be in place and perfect next year. That's why it's a 5-year plan, because it is going to take time, and it takes time to get teachers that have been doing things one way to change, and some that just might not understand why they're doing them the way they are. And that, we have our work cut out for us, in that, we have 2 buildings who have never done this. So this is brand new. And we have one building that's been doing it for years.
One way.
A
different way.
Yeah. So, it's kind of there's 2 obstacles. There's one, getting the schools that have not been reporting on competencies to be reporting on competencies, and then to get the school that has been to understand what best practices are.
I brought that up, Trevor, a few weeks ago about honors bio. That's
Oh,
all
yeah.
4. Yeah.
That's exactly
All the class you're all 4 grades are the same. Every grade goes in all 4, so all the competencies are the same.
That happened to me last year, but I like that. I can't lie because I did like that.
But it's not a true reflection
Right,
of
exactly.
whether or not you had mastered that competency.
So we're gonna get off CHS. What about kindergarten? Can we make the competencies more play-based? Because that's where things seem to be going.
Well, kindergarten is, by the state policy, it's
800 workbooks, math workbook pages. I don't know. I like seeing more play-based things.
And that has been, when I'm in the kindergarten, that's what we're pushing, the station rotations and things of that
I think
nature.
they do that.
They do a lot. I've met with them a few times on, this is our program. How do we make this work for us? And
they're a great team.
They are a great team, and they definitely want to make it work for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's been my message to them is you have your curriculum. That's what we need to make sure they know.
Yeah.
It needs to be engaging, and it needs to be a good learning experience for our youngest kiddos.
Yeah.
Are we going to be receiving this?
I can give you them.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
For me, the thing about that I'm happiest to see, I think, is the work study practices taken out of it. If the whole thing, if you turn it in late, you get a 0. It's really hard to recover from a 0 because you weren't in class that day, or you were out.
And it does not demonstrate whether
Right.
or not you have the skill.
Exactly.
That really is that's the whole idea behind a competency system,
Right.
is that the grades are based on what a
Mhm.
student is able to demonstrate in terms of their application.
But I do think I do think we have to weight those work study practices on equal footing if we're going to do that. So I think I like the idea of there being consequences for failing work study
Right.
practices.
And that was, I had a very straightforward conversation. When I met with the high school leadership team, all their CFs, and because they continue, as most high schools do, to have the conversation about, okay,
We're hearing children.
to have the
Yeah.
conversation about late work and penalizing late work. And when I went to them and said, but we know that it needs to be pulled out of the academic grades. And we know we have work study practices that clearly articulate it. It wasn't until I said, what do you do to give it more teeth, that they went, well, we can't. And
Of
I
course
said,
you
yes,
can.
That needs to be the next
Right.
discussion.
Right.
I think,
Because
I think it's speaking of the choir, I think that the teeth is getting that zero in there like that. So the grade reflects it. So the student wants to turn it in to change the zero. And I think that happens too often, that it's not turned in, the grade's not entered. And it goes from a day, a week to a month before it's entered.
And that was,
Yes.
that was part of our conversation as well
Yeah.
at that leadership meeting.
But I also think, you know, if you tie it to things like honor societies and you tie it to eligibility and parking permit, I mean, privileges that we give our high achieving students and our good students. You know, if you're getting, you know, B's and A's, but you're late to class, you don't show up, you're not ready, you're not prepared, you know, you turn stuff in late, are you really a good example of what we want our Campbell students to be?
Right.
And are you really getting the skills that you need to be an adult? So I think that that's a good discussion that we need to have.
Yep.
I'm glad it's happening.
And again, all of these, this is all based on discussions that that we are in various stages of.
Yes. Yep.
And I've just, having been one of those students in high school, I hope they take into account a kid that's not going to do any homework and get an A on the test. And I'd hate a kid not to be able to park, or, you know, who's got A's, ones, whatever we decide to do for score. But because he doesn't find it necessary, but he still gets A's, he shouldn't, that
Right.
to me, he should be punished.
Well, that also brings another discussion of the value of homework and what are we giving for homework, and that's another discussion for another day.
But it's just, that's where I hopefully keep the balance with the work habits when we talk about taking away privileges. But the student's one of the best students
Right.
just because they didn't do homework. You don't want to. I know it's a small, but it is there.
No, but at the same time, I think what we run into now, and I know I'm sitting next to two very involved and very good students, but we have a lot of kids that know how to play school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they leave
And they don't know how to.
and
do
they
it.
don't know how to, they don't. And that's just that's par for the course with the traditional system. You know, you know how we all knew how to do it. You know how to work the system so that you get the grades and you get the GPA, and you know, and so it's looking at both sides of that too.
7 GPA, my friend.
But I hate to see a kid that works so hard and studies for hours and hours and gets 59 on the test. Those kids. That's where the recovery and recovery can't be, you know, it's that ongoing recovery.
Right.
It's not you failed at the end of the quarter, the competency. It needs to be ongoing recovery. It needs to be relearning all the time, because we know part of the philosophy behind this is that all kids learn at different rates. We, as a traditional education system, say you get 2 weeks to learn that concept. But the reality is, for some kids, it's going to take longer, and then they're going to catch up somewhere else.
How do you report that?
Well, but the concern I have with what Liz just said is that might be that student's peak, and that's where the competency has to be. The competency, you know, the A, B, C, D, F doesn't matter. It's, does he understand what you're doing? They might be doing it at a very base level,
Right.
and it might be whatever you want
To the best of their ability.
But a D, we got to get out of that mentality.
Right.
If we use it, a D for that student might be the A for the other student, because
Right.
that's their level, and that's where the competencies are tough, because you got to
Yeah.
teach people. The D in that is where that student should.
But it's also about
probably be.
progress.
It's about progress. And
Yeah.
that's the other piece, is that we are going to need to change the mentality of, you know, if you're getting A's out of the gate in a competency, it's too easy. It's not a competency. You know, we should be looking at year-long or semester-long, depending on the course,
And can I ask,
competencies.
Mary, has there been discussion yet for the kid who can get an A out of the gate, if there's going to be testing out of a class? Or,
We haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm throwing a lot here. that's really looking at when we look at down the road, do we want to be a true competency model? That's something we'll have to address.
But how do you put that on a transcript though? Does it say competency recovery?
A lot of them do.
Do they?
A little asterisk or something. So
But let's say someone, I'll bring it up again, failed geometry with a 78 in the class, but his average, he got an F in the class, so they're averaging a 59 instead of a 78. Like, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, well,
Well, they're not averaging, they're averaging a 0 because it's GPA, so.
But then what happens after they recover it? Do they recover it to the 78 or do they recover it to a 65?
they recover it to a proficient score.
65.
Proficient.
Proficient.
You gotta get away
have
from
to
the
get away-
numbers
You
and the
have to
letters.
change the mentality of the numbers.
But Liz, that's what you want.
Paradigm shift.
It is. It's a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, we're doing that too with 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
It's driving people crazy.
That's just
Yeah.
It's just-
you have to. It's a lot to wrap your mind around when you've been trained your entire life to
Right.
get A's and B's.
Correct.
And
Which
90s
is
and 100s.
honestly why shifting, why a lot of communities have started this by going with a hybrid model.
Mhm.
But what ends up happening is it becomes so gray.
Mhm.
And a lot
The 3 just
are
becomes-
starting to shift to a more
Threes.
traditional model. I mean, a more
I'm just looking at like,
true model,
Yeah.
one way or the other, honestly.
so a college is gonna look at this kid's proficient and this kid gets a C?
Yeah.
That's what
Colleges,
you know
flat,
what I mean?
I have sat in more meetings, and this is over the last 15 years, where college admissions people are very clear about the fact that it does not matter. Like they can interpret those because different states do different
Liz,
systems.
Liz, we go to, we visit UNH every year with our
Yeah.
8th graders. And they tell the kids, an A at your school is a B at your school is a C. at
Which
your
is
school.
true.
Because-
It's
Is a
100%
two at
true.
your-
Yeah.
right.
And they
So-
tell you point blank, we know the schools, we know the teachers, we look at the transcripts, but we also know a physics A here is different than a physics A there.
Absolutely,
They look
Troy.
at it, so
Yeah,
It
interesting.
doesn't matter.
Okay, just
So
asking my
that
first
that
question.
is something that gets a lot of people hung up when they talk about competency reporting, especially on a transcript.
Mhm.
But the reality is, colleges will tell you it does not matter. And if you think about it, a 4-point scale is what colleges use.
Right.
Right.
Could I just ask Mary, and,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I just said I didn't like them, is it a 4-point scale? Because I do get hung up on this because I still it should be a 4-point scale if any work is turned in, but a 5-point scale if the work isn't turned in. Like, is that
I
taken
mean,
into account?
you can't, if there's
Like,
not
if there's
work
nothing
turned-
to do,
if
it's still a
there's-
0. A 0 is a 0.
If there's no work turned in,
So it's a 4. Is that am I making sense? It's like a 4-point scale for anything turned in.
or you might,
Or-
I mean, we might decide to do an NYM, not yet met, something of that nature. But yeah, I mean, if work's not turned in, there can't be a score put in for it.
We call it any, no evidence.
But
or
what I
they're
like,
trying, it's an
some of the
IP
teachers that my
progress.
student has right now puts in a missing instead of a 0.
Yep.
And so I don't get an alert that, so and so has an F in this competency.
Right.
So I get a missing
A missing-
assignment.
a
And I
missing
really
assignment.
appreciate that from, because I can follow up.
Yeah, I like that.
But if it's a 0, it's did you bomb it? Did you not turn it in?
Right.
Right.
That happened to me all the time. My teachers put in 0s. But I was wondering, how would, for like high school wise, how would midterms and finals weigh into this?
Good
It's a
question.
very good
Would it
question.
be like, because like right now, midterm grades or final grades are like their own like thing, but they weigh in on your final grade? Would they go into competencies or?
They should. Realistically, they should go into the competencies. We haven't, there are certain topics that we just haven't broached yet because we are so early in it. But in an ideal setting, they would be competency based assessments and they would just filter into your competencies.
And they
Like a
wouldn't
project?
necessarily be a test.
But yeah, it might not
be a
necessarily, it would be
performance
more a
assessment.
performance
Yeah.
assessment.
What do you have to say? You just
That's
bit
what-
your
that's
tongue.
what I'm thinking when you talking to her about. I think finals and midterms are completely different than what the competencies are saying. And
Correct.
Having both of them is not worth it because
Mm-hmm.
the whole semester we're trying to get put towards these 4 or 5 different competencies and then we're doing this test.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is just basic knowledge in the study.
That was honestly last year after midterms, I sat with all of the CFs at the high school, and that was my first question to all of them. because that was pretty obvious in looking at the
Mm-hmm.
test, was that they didn't reflect competencies. So we are working on that.
So
It'll be time for your
I'm
brother.
a big believer in big tests because I mean, life has big tests,
Mhm.
right? So people have to learn how to do well on big tests, but it doesn't mean that the final exam is the category. So I could have a chemistry exam where I had sections of it that were measuring the competencies and I report independent scores on each of those, right? So the idea that you've got to sit down and take a long piece to show what you know, but I also have evolved in my own thinking, going back to the point that you made, Liz, that you know, the student who struggled and got the D,
Mhm.
but then gets the A in the end, that doesn't average out to a C plus either. That might be an A.
You're looking at,
You might
I mean,
show
the
me
whole
that that's
idea
where you've
is
landed
looking
and
at
you
the
got the A,
progression.
you earned it.
And
you
that
know?
goes back to me with a driver's license to practice exam. You know,
Mhm.
you don't get a teacher certificate that says fail, fail, fail.
Right,
Pass
right.
your practice. You get a teacher certificate. You get a driver's license. It doesn't say fail, fail. I don't understand why a kid wouldn't get the grade he earned, whether
And
he gets
that's
it
still,
once or 5 times.
the funny thing though, Rob, is that's still what we hear as pushback as to retakes and things of that nature. Well, you don't get second. Yeah, we
Well,
get second chances
it's-
all the
it-
time.
And I just like, and I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with competencies, but my mother-in-law, who's a teacher, retired at Thanksgiving about 10 years ago, was having this argument because our school was going to it. And the way I explained it to her was just that. The day after Thanksgiving, my nephew was going for his driver's test. And she was like, they should get what they earn. I said, so you're saying if Jack takes his driver's test tomorrow and fails, he should never drive? That's what you're saying.
Mhm.
Well, that's different. That's different.
No, it's not.
It's learning.
Correct.
That
And
only
that
counts
that
for-
honestly is
What's that?
That only applies to airline pilots. They should never fly.
no. They should make sure they pass all of the competencies.
Right.
Yeah. So sorry it's too late for you guys.
But he has a brother and you have a little sister. So
Yeah.
Oh, thank
okay.
you. That was great.
Good.
So she'll be in there in 2025.
She'll be telling we don't have midterms.
I'll be like graduating from college and I'll be at state college, but like, we don't have midterms anymore.
What grade is Ava now?
She's in 4th grade.
She's in fourth.
And what grade your brother in? Middle school? Yeah.
8th grade.
Look at the tail end.
I'm just glad to see this is happening. And I mean, this is stuff
Been
I've
going
heard
on for
parents
years.
complaining about for years and students complaining about for years. So good.
That's good.
And as you can see, this is why my stress level is so high.
Your hair turned blue.
My hair turned blue. Got so stressed out.
But
My
I
hair
like-
turned blue.
I appreciate the feedback that you got about what is your vision,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
this really helps.
And in all honesty,
in
I just have been really, I don't want to say standoffish in doing
No.
that, but I don't want it to be, this is what the SAU says.
Right.
You know, so this is all, although this is my vision, it's been with a lot of discussion with admin, with grading and reporting, with teachers and small groups as we're writing curriculum. So
Yeah.
Um,
No, I agree. I don't think it can be successful if it's a top-down direct. Right. I mean, everybody needs
Agreed.
to
Buy in.
buy in and take part and create.
Yeah, create is huge.
Are there a lot of schools in New Hampshire that are at, you know, kind of where we're at or at the 2025 level?
It's kind of
It runs the gamut.
yeah, it does run the gamut, and there are a lot of schools that came out fast out of the gate, and now we're going back and saying, you know, maybe we didn't put enough in place to be able to make it successful long term, and others who are taking their time to make sure that it's what works for their system. And I think that's the important part, and this is why I've always been a believer in making sure that you take the time to do it right for your system, because every system's different. And so we can't, you know, there are schools that have it set up and are doing it great, and we can take bits and pieces from it. But what works in one district isn't going to work the same way in this
Just
district.
try to think of it from the teacher perspective, and I think like to allow unlimited retakes, and it just seems,
Well,
you know, if
Well,
it's
it's not-
It's not unlimited.
It's
No.
not unlimited, and it's not, we have to stop thinking about it as retakes, which is really, that's a hard thing for teachers to get over. You know, a kid fails something, you don't just have them study the next day and hand them the same test.
Because all
There
you're gonna-
has to be
all you're
relearning.
gonna do is get
but
the
it's
same
a
grade.
Right.
whole, it seems like a whole shift in teaching really as well. So
But Tara, it's
a-
not like a lot of things you talk, it's not a shift only in teaching, it's in the
It's a shift
student,
in the
it's the
student
student
responsibility as
understanding,
well.
I can't just not try because I can take it over again. And we,
Yeah. Big
it's,
shift on
well,
many
but it's gotta be to the point,
parents,
and I
too.
hate to say, and I hate to use the word punishment, but they have to realize if they don't do well, it's not just take it again and hope you do better.
Right.
It's probably more work than they would have done if they had just studied there,
Yeah,
because you
it
make them
is.
go back.
Oh, and I know some of the
because
teachers have already
ideally
done
that relearning is for the kids that need that extra support. If it's just a matter of blowing off a test, that's what I when we went to our relearning in our freshman academy, it can't just be come back and do your test corrections and retake the test.
Right.
You have to, because what will happen is you will continue to have the kids that just don't study, don't do well, come back and retake it when they feel like it. It has to be relearning. There has to be.
Read the notes, review the notes, take the notes, summarize the notes, go over with the teacher. It's got to be a process.
Yeah. And I think parents should know that in the grading and reporting committee started to talk about the importance of educating parents as well. About
Yep. Well, that's part of this. I wanted to bring this to the board first, and make sure that before we start putting things out to parents, that it's come to you guys and you've had an opportunity to see it and digest it and give feedback.
What if teachers don't want this? Like, is it gonna be like, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I feel like teachers are.
Well, you are.
on what they want to do.
Well, but I think part of the point I was going to make too on the paradigm shift is think about your average teacher. They excelled in the subject that they're teaching. Why did I go into chemistry? Because I loved chemistry, right? And I understood it and I picked up on it. And so
Never understand that.
I'm not talking to a bunch of me's in the classroom, right? And so I've got to find a way to sort of work that through. And so some of the resistance to this is coming from people who are passionate and understand the subject material. And so that's why there is a resistance to it.
And you'll see, I mean, high school background, that was me too. At the secondary level, we are all experts in our content area. That's what we focused on.
Yeah.
So breaking away from I'm the expert and I'm going to give you all of my knowledge is really difficult to shift because that's where the comfort is.
That's a lot easier to do.
And it's going to come with training, and we have a lot of teachers at Campbell right now that know how to do it and do it well. And it's really encouraging them to be a bigger voice, encouraging those who are having some, that need some support to do some observations and get out and see what things are going on, and
to figure out how what they're doing fits into
Correct.
this model.
You're not taking it and throwing it out and
Right.
then starting from scratch. It's how do I take what I do and make it better to fit what we're doing, to make it best practices for this kind of a model.
Is all of New Hampshire heading towards competency based? Is that the
As
state
of
directive?
2015, all high schools needed to be.
That's what I thought.
But it
yeah.
was 2008.
I think that was
Oh,
the
wow.
original, but then I think they pushed it back.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of work actually.
Well, I think that the struggle has been, which is why not everybody is, everybody's in different places, is there hasn't been, you gotta love New Hampshire. We are local control, live free or die, and there's
Right.
not a whole lot of.
But it was mandated by the states. Okay, that's what I
Yes, it
thought.
was.
It's in the the ed rules.
Yep, it is in the ed rules, but how is
up to us.
Up to us.
We have to award credit based on competency achievement, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
what does that mean?
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Mary.
Yes, thank you.
And I will make sure that you guys
You know
get
me,
this.
I'm like total geek for this stuff. So
I will send it out.
We just talk chemistry.
I was gonna write it in Spanish.
Oh, no. Oh. So will you share that climate and culture data? with
Yeah,
us?
I will share
Okay.
both of these with you guys right now.
Okay.
If my computer doesn't die.
Excellent.
Send it to me too.
I will.
So just one thing before we move on.
Share with the council.
Oh, cool.
You have
Look
to
at
spell Steiniger fast.
Or just Chloe. Like, pop up just like the one with 21.
Or Scopely.
So actually, I might be able to do that.
So just before we move on to the dining report, one thing I just want to go back to the school board. Our next meeting will be on the 18th, which is after the election. So just food for thought that at that time we'll be selecting not only a chair and a vice chair, but also as far as different assignments. So just something to think about before we roll into the next meeting and say everyone go, huh? So.
Good luck to Tara.
That's also a challenge.
You what? Good luck to Tara. I know. Thank you.
So next up is the dining report.
So if you click the link, Corey actually talked with Lauren, but basically, if you look at the summary data at the bottom, it is the difference between 2 years ago.
It's one of the T's. I know that.
The summary that's at the bottom is the difference between 2 years ago and
Okay.
this one, right?
Got it.
So, but the numbers continue to be strong.
I'm assuming February doesn't take into account the snow days, and I'm assuming that the high school finals probably a week later, looking at the numbers, right?
That way the year before too,
yeah.
wouldn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, but the high school had
Because the high school really is the
the
one.
finals were really the last week of January, right? So
Or the first week of February.
No, January.
last week of January.
I don't think it says 14 days, and would you have 3 snow days in February?
Well, we had the school vacation and
No, but I feel like it says 16, 15, 14 days. But I don't think it takes into account snow. I was looking at this.
Oh,
when
I
wrote
hear
it
you.
down. It didn't take into account snow days. So if you lost 3 days, that's your 500 meals that you're averaging
Yeah.
below.
Yep.
Is she gonna come out even?
I'm hoping. I got it. I'm going to be looking through those. I'll have numbers for next meeting.
It would be. Is it? Do we add a column just with the year total? Like,
isn't
after
that
a
at
month?
the end?
Doesn't she have monthly? Is there a year? Oh, there's year. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, all the way
87,
over.
226. Yeah.
It's one big number all the way over.
I couldn't see it.
I think I do. Actually, does the student council, I mean, what are you hearing from students at the high school relative to food, food
I heard
service?
a lot of people like the new sandwich sign. they put out.
The sign.
I didn't see that.
Do they like the sandwiches?
Oh, the sign was nice.
The deli sign. So what she did is there's sandwiches named after staff members. So there's the Lonergan, the Perez, the Taylor.
okay.
There's those types of
I
things.
had sandwiches last year. I liked them honestly, and a lot of students really did because we have a lot more like options now, and I know a lot of students are really liking the new sushi option. There's like the morning omelets on like Thursdays, I think. I haven't heard anyone try it yet, but
There was a waffle bar the other day too. Top German waffles.
I didn't know about that.
Gotta keep your eye out. But yeah.
Wow.
So with all the new selections, but the thing is too, and when I put the numbers together for next meeting is looking at, participation is up. So we're getting that full reimbursement that we should. But at the same time, what we found in past years is that the portions were wrong
Yeah.
and you were feeding high school kids elementary school portions. So they were buying multiple meals.
Right.
So you were getting more revenue on the local side for that,
That's
and
a
not
good
getting all the
point.
not getting all the reimbursable meals you could, and selling additional items on a la carte. So
And
there's like an
ingredients were
adjustment
far-
that
that
comes
was
with it.
inferior too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Ingredients were far inferior too.
Yes.
Your one teaspoon of spaghetti.
Yeah, that's how it
Your
works.
two
Yeah.
nuggets.
Like
And you're
we used
feeding
to
an
get,
offensive
one
lineman
chicken
and a-
nuggets and we're high schoolers, and I'd be coming from gym class. I'd be like, "This is what I'm gonna eat after gym class," and I was starving after gym. And then I'd have practice to go to, so that would be the
Yep.
only meal I'm eating between practice and school. So,
Just heaven forbid you'd pack something from home to
Yeah.
bring.
and
I know that. Can you bring me a
Want them
snack?
to spend money.
I know.
How's the vending machine going at CHS?
As far as I've heard, so far so good.
In the calf?
I've seen a lot of people at it. Get this stuff.
Add it.
What's
Okay.
in it?
Oh, there's Snapple, ice water. Like ice water is the like sparkling one. I love that stuff, but I never carry cash in school, so I can never. Or is it coins? Is it coins?
It's an interesting
I think
perspective.
it's like a coin.
Oh, it's that you can't swipe your.
Oh,
Put
that's
your
too
I think it'd
bad.
be a lot more
Tap
popular
it
if
phone.
you could put like.
If we
your
could put our lunch.
student-
Our lunch
Yes, that would be amazing.
Lord help us if we
I
can
would
get
buy
vending
every
machines.
single
School
It's either
bus.
Amoskeag or Bellavance. It's one of the
Oh,
two.
It's
But they
interesting.
provide the machine for free. And I think there's a percentage of revenue that comes to us.
If we could put our school codes into those kinds of things, like
Huh.
I would buy one.
I would be
That's why
broke.
parents have no.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
That is a good
It's a meal plan.
suggestion. Huh.
A lot of meals.
College.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't need deodorant, buy the safety.
Moving along, do we have any questions on the manifest?
You skipped the
Skip
accessible use policy.
Oh, well, we've done it so many times. I mean,
I
it's
know.
like,
I didn't see.
This
Uh-huh.
is, this is the second
This
and
is the
final
last
read.
time.
It's really the third
Oh,
read. but that's
okay.
You guys ready?
fourth.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's at least four. All right, so we have the acceptable use policy for the second and final read.
Accept the acceptable use policy.
Second, motion to accept the acceptable use policy.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, everyone signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain.
Acceptable.
500.
To accept.
Some manifests, public input. Again, we have no one here from the public. So I'll say goodnight to you two, and we'll go into non-public.
Thanks, you guys. Thank
Say
you.
91-A311.